After defeating the Dark Lord and saving the wizarding world from being taken over by Death Eaters, it seems only fair that the boy wizard should have the chance to get laid by someone. But who should that someone have been? While the internet has certainly offered up endless possibilities, including Luna Lovegood, Malfoy, and even Snape, going by what we know from the books, and assuming Harry is heterosexual, there are really only two logical candidates: Hermione Granger and Ginny Weasley. Which of these two fits better as Harry's lifelong partner? Well, let's start off with the first time Harry meets each of them. Oddly enough, Harry actually met both of them on the same day, the day he took the Hogwarts Express at the start of his first year. It has to be said that Hermione certainly did not make a good first impression on either Harry or her eventual partner Ron, irritating both of them by talking a lot and interfering a number of times with what they were trying to do. In fact, there is even one scene in the first book where Harry and Ron are sneaking out one night. She tries to stop them, and the book actually says, Harry couldn't believe anyone could be so interfering. It's only after the incident with the troll in the girls' bathroom that Harry became friends with her. And even there, Ron was the one who actually knocked out the troll. So how does this compare with his early experiences with Ginny? Well, his first meeting with her is so brief and uneventful that I think we can disregard it and go straight to the second time he meets her, almost a year later. This meeting over the course of Harry's summer at the Burrow, for the most part, is also largely uneventful. During his time there, Ginny is too nervous around Harry to really do or say anything while he's around. But there is one interesting incident in Flourish and Blots when Malfoy meets him after being photographed for the Daily Prophet. "Famous Harry Potter," said Malfoy. "Can't even go into a bookshop without making the front page." "Leave him alone, he didn't want all that," said Ginny. It was the first time she had spoken in front of Harry. She was glaring at Malfoy. "Potter, you've got yourself a girlfriend," drawled Malfoy. Ginny went scarlet as Ron and Hermione fought their way over. This moment has always fascinated me. All the times prior to this, Ginny could have plucked up the courage to make polite conversation with Harry, or even just say hello or good morning to him, and she wasn't able to do it because of how uneasy she felt around him. Yet when she finally does speak in front of Harry, it's not any attempt to get to know him, or to be polite, or even to him. It's to defend his honour and confront someone Harry himself does not get along with, and may not even have had the courage to speak to himself. How is it that Ginny has the courage to do this, but not speak to Harry in a less tense environment? Well, I like to think that the indignation Ginny feels on Harry's behalf for the way Malfoy speaks to him overpowers any nervousness she feels. Raw emotion of anger for the way Harry is being treated have taken over, and she doesn't hesitate to do something about it. This is a clear sign to me that even at a young age, Ginny has real feelings of love for Harry. This isn't just some silly schoolgirl crush. The next thing to consider is how much time they have spent together and how meaningful that time was. On the surface, it would seem like Hermione is the clear choice. She's been right there for most of Harry's adventures throughout the series. Going through the trapdoor in their first year, discovering that Sirius Black had betrayed Harry's parents, flying to the Department of Mysteries and fighting Death Eaters there, and the quest to find Horcruxes. But the other key thing to keep in mind is most of the experiences Hermione shared with Harry, she also shared with Ron. But also, she probably spent more time alone with Ron, since there were many times during the books when Harry had to deal with things on his own, fighting Quirrell at the end of his first year, for example. The only major things she and Harry did alone was saving Sirius and Buckbeak at the end of their third year, and visit Godric's Hollow in the last book. Of course, the other thing you have to consider is, would Hermione even want to end up with Harry, or would she have chosen Ron? I've heard some fans point out that Hermione always seemed to get along with Harry, but she was always bickering and, at times, even fell out with Ron. That is undeniably true. There was certainly a lot less friction between her and Harry. But I would speculate that the fact that they can argue as much as they do, and yet still remain friends, just shows how close her and Ron are. Another thing to keep in mind is, if Harry and Hermione did end up together, where does that leave Ron? Is he just going to be left as the odd one out? There is actually a bit in Half-Blood Prince where Harry is starting to wonder about being the odd one out in the group. He starts to see the idea of the two of them going out as a no-win situation for him. If it works out, they will likely shut him out and become completely insufferable to be around, and if it didn't work out, they might not even be able to stay friends, and he would be stuck in the middle trying to bridge the gap between them. It's very possible Ron would have had the same concerns had Harry and Hermione ended up together. There is also this argument some fans have had that the idea of Harry ending up with Ginny breaks the rules of basic hero's journey writing. These rules state that you always put your main male protagonist, in this case Harry, with your main female protagonist, Hermione. But if you ask me, that's all the more reason not to have Harry end up with her. It's the cliched and predictable thing that everyone expects you to do. Also, that kind of logic just seems very backward to me. Put Harry with Hermione not because there are any real feelings of love, or because it's something that their story has been working towards, or even because it feels right. No, just put them together because that's what the rulebook says you're supposed to do. Let's also not forget the fact that even Hermione herself didn't want Harry to end up with her. During the final pages of Half-Blood Prince, it is revealed that Hermione actually advised Ginny on how best to act around Harry, even years before Harry started to develop feelings for her. She suggested that Ginny act more like herself and not be so nervous around him. Although that does kind of suggest that Hermione knew how much Ginny wanted to be with Harry for years before anything happened between the two of them. So why didn't she try to make more of an effort to get Harry to be with Ginny? Heck, during Order of the Phoenix, she seems more interested in helping Harry's chances with Cho Chang. Why would she do that if she already knew Ginny liked him? Well, one theory I have is she is a closer friend to Harry than she is to Ginny. She just puts his desires ahead of Ginny's. She's happy to advise Ginny on how best to act around Harry, but if Harry simply doesn't want to be with her, she's not going to persuade him otherwise. That's really the essence of what Hermione's role in this series was. She was the loyal friend who would never hesitate to do what was best for Harry, like the way she tells McGonagall about Harry being sent the firebolt anonymously. Which is really why the idea of the two of them as a romantic couple just seems wrong to me. It's like making R2-D2 and C-3PO a romantic couple, or Sherlock and John Watson, or Spock and Kirk, or Varric and Zoop. Oh, wait, they actually did get together, didn't they? Well, anyway, my point still remains that the idea of them as a couple just doesn't work for me. Harry is also just not attracted to Hermione in that kind of way. During the time when Harry has a crush on Cho, the book always describes certain jolts or pangs of excitement and nervousness whenever he is so much as in her presence. But even when Hermione kisses Harry at the end of the 4th book, Harry feels nothing. He just sort of notes that she had never done that before. Ginny also mentions near the end of Half-Blood Prince that she never really gave up on Harry, but Hermione advised her to get on with her life. Hence why she starts to act more normal around Harry from about the 4th book onwards. The logical assumption some might make is that is because she is simply over Harry. But there is one moment in the 4th book when Harry and Ron are both struggling to find dates for the U-Ball, when Ron suggests Ginny go with Harry, and Ginny says she can't because she has already agreed to go with Neville. She then quickly leaves looking, according to the book, extremely miserable. Clearly Ginny feels awful about having to decline the chance to go with Harry, but still wants to hide these feelings as she feels embarrassed to still be expressing feelings for Harry in front of him. What's also interesting is that when Harry starts to develop feelings for Ginny, he never even considers the idea that these feelings might not be mutual anymore. At first, he just finds the idea of having feelings for her a bit strange, due to his strong bond with the Weasley family. He had always previously thought of Ginny as like a sister, but once he's got over this weird sensation, the only thing that holds him back from making a move on her is the fear of where this will leave Ron. The idea of his best friend and his sister dating might be too weird for him. So clearly Harry has always known deep down that Ginny had feelings for him that were more than just a silly childish crush, but he still valued his friendship with Ron more than anything else. Harry is loyal and values others' feelings above what he really wants, which is also something we see from Ginny in the 4th book. She could have just simply told Neville she'd rather go with Harry to the ball, but she knows that that's an awful thing to have to tell someone, especially Neville, who doesn't have the greatest level of self-esteem to begin with. So not only does she not do this, she never even considers it, even though declining the chance to go with Harry to the ball is tearing her up inside. But above all, what really makes me love these two as a couple is the scene where they kiss for the first time. Which, by the way, I was so pissed off that they omitted from the movie. I don't often cry when watching or reading any form of fiction, but the first time I read that scene, there were tears streaming down my face. In case you don't remember it, here is that scene. A roar of celebration erupted from the hole behind her. Harry gasped as people began to scream at the sight of him. Several hands pulled him into the room. "We won!" yelled Ron, bounding into sight and brandishing the silver cup at Harry. "We won 450 to 140. We won!" Harry looked around. There was Ginny running towards him. She had a hard, blazing look in her face as she threw her arms around him. And without thinking, without planning it, without worrying about the fact that 50 people were watching, Harry kissed her. After several long moments, or it might have been half an hour, or possibly several sunlit days, they broke apart. The room had gone very quiet. Then several people wolf whistled, and there was an outbreak of nervous giggling. Harry looked over the top of Ginny's head to see Dean Thomas holding a shattered glass in his hand, and Romilda Vane looking as though she might throw something. Hermione was beaming, but Harry's eyes sought Ron. At last he found him, still clutching the cup and wearing an expression appropriate to having been clubbed over the head. For a fraction of a second, they looked at each other. Then Ron gave a tiny jerk of the head that Harry understood to mean, well, if you must. The creature in his chest roaring in triumph, he grinned down at Ginny and gestured wordlessly out of the portrait hole. A long walk in the grounds seemed indicated, during which, if they had time, they might discuss the match. Now, I am aware of the fact that Rowling herself has admitted that she feels Harry should have ended up with Hermione. But this really doesn't make any sense to me. As I've explained in this video, it seems pretty clear to me that many events during the series were alluding to the idea of Harry and Ginny ending up together. And there is very little to indicate that Harry and Hermione had anything like the same kind of feelings. In fact, there is one moment in the fourth book during a period when Harry has fallen out with Ron, where it's made pretty clear that Harry really does not enjoy only having Hermione to hang out with, because it just isn't as much fun. Also, the idea of Hermione ending up with Ron is quite blatantly telegraphed in Half-Blood Prince. So I really don't understand why Rowling would say this. I am still convinced she got it right the first time. Harry and Ginny just feel right together to me. They have similar personalities in terms of the way they often make cocky remarks, so they work well off of one another, and are probably the two most straight characters in the books. You'd think people had better things to gossip about, said Ginny, as she sat on the common room floor leaning against Harry's legs and reading the Daily Prophet. 3 Dementor attacks in a week, and all Romilda Vane does is ask me if it's true you've got a hippogriff tattooed across your chest. Ron and Hermione both roared with laughter. Harry ignored them. What did you tell her? I told her it's a Hungarian horntail, said Ginny, turning a page in the newspaper idly. Much more macho. Thanks, said Harry. And what did you tell her Ron's got? A pygmy puff, but I didn't say where.